Okay, here we are. Welcome back, Jeb and Flo. I have a very special guest with me here today, Mr. Julian Alcaraz. This is our Father's Day special.
Dang.
And I know we're obviously recording this before Father's Day, but happy Father's Day.
Thank you so much. Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Thank you. This will be my first official Father's Day. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what I have a million questions for you, but the main thing is, how old is Banner now?
He is 6 weeks.
6 weeks old.
Yeah.
So baby number 2, 6 weeks old. How is life different with 2 boys versus 1 boy?
Less time with tasks that you would like to accomplish as far as work stuff goes, which can be a little bit of a challenge. I know when we had Knox, we also had like a nanny who was able to dedicate her time to just holding Knox, because babies in the first 3 months, or even 6 months, they are awake, they eat, sleep, poop, and they get moments where they're like hyper, but they're back to sleeping, and you can hold them, and that's pretty much all they need, right? They need that comfort, which is cute. But at some point, when we're like, running a business and have the staff and have all these things, our responsibilities, it gets kind of hard on both of us.
For sure.
Because we do have a full-time nanny, which is my mom, but she's also taking care of Knox, who's about to be 3, who has also a lot of energy, and also still needs a lot of attention, but in a different way, because now, he's just so active.
Right.
But I know that our plan is to definitely have Knox jump into like a Montessori school that's pretty close to here, which will allow, and it's like a half day only, but it'll allow my mom to establish a relationship with Banner in the morning for like a couple hours and kind of let us get into some kind of a flow, check a bunch of things off our list. But yeah, it's definitely figuring out priorities.
Yeah.
And you have to let go of any expectation. And because if you don't, it can really consume you, and it can be very stressful.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, everybody I've talked to that has 2 kids, it's like exponentially more time consuming.
Yeah.
It's not just twice as time consuming. It's like,
yeah. Oh yeah. We got lucky, this on Sundays now is like our day where it's like our full family day, where it's like, we know we don't need assistance. We would like to spend time with the fam. And we got lucky because, both boys were able to take a nap at the same time.
Wow. And
we're like, oh wow. And me and Miranda were both hurting.
Yeah.
Just with the early wake up calls and stuff. But will every Sunday be that way? Who knows? Who knows? You see what I'm saying? So like,
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes that you just have to kind of go with.
So personality wise, can you already tell like that they're very different? Does Banner act differently than, if you can remember, like Knox acted when he was his age?
Yeah, I think, it was kind of weird is they definitely look like each other now. So it looks like I'm just looking at baby Knox again. Wow. Small, different like little features that are a little different, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, these are definitely brothers. They have a lot of the same feature, like the eyes especially. They both have same color eyes, which is really, I don't know how we hit that eye lottery when it comes to that. Banner's definitely more, he likes a lot of movement. I know Knox did too, though, but he's a little bit more serious and observant. Knox was very hyper and wild. He was just a wild. Like if they were to both go to like a bar, if they were older, Knox would instigate the fight and Banner would finish it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your role as a father has changed now that you have 2 kids, or now that Banner has come along?
If anything, it's just kind of puts me in a position to continue to stay focused for the long term, and realizing that, no matter how difficult things are with lack of sleep and everything, still being very present and learning as much as possible, so that way I can teach that over to the boys, because their brains are like sponges and they're very observant. You start seeing that, and even reading the books, the Montessori books, or even some homeschooling books, you see how much they are learning. And I think people get away from that, and they look at their kids or look at children like they're just children, and not like, oh man, but they're so smart.
Yeah.
So yeah, just staying on it and continuing to better myself and learn as much as I can, so I can pass that on. Even before this started, we were talking about how I want to give the boys a little head start and give them a little savings account, but also put it in the stock market. So when they're of age like 16 years old, I can then pass that on to them and be like, this is your guys' savings account. I've contributed, and I want you guys to keep that going.
Yeah.
So thinking of things for the long term.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like, what I try to remind myself as a father is that really what I'm trying to do is grow an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, when my daughter grows up, I want her to be like a really good adult.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, what things do I have to do now or try to pass along to her so that she has those tools when she grows up? What would you say, like, the top few things that you would really want to instill in your kids so that to pass along to them?
Oh man, there's
like
so much. But like, for example, one of the things that I do when I see Knox, because Miranda is a very emotional person, and she teaches him a lot of emotion and caring and stuff like that. Not that I don't have that either, but me and Miranda are very different in that sense, which I'm glad she's like that, because then she can teach him a part of her and pass that on to them.
Right.
For me, I feel it's a big responsibility to show them to not only be tough and to be a provider, but also allowing a delicacy and a vulnerability to them. But also, because I've learned how to do that, to learn how to lead with vulnerability and be okay with that, because that's how you learn. That's how you always self-evaluate yourself. And don't point the finger. Always kind of keep learning from your mistakes. And I want to teach him just, how to be kind, how to love, not be ashamed of that, how to be honest. All those typical things, but just to not be afraid of feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, not being afraid of feeling is the biggest thing. Yeah.
I think that's really good. I feel like growing up, if you have a father figure or your own dad in your life, they are essentially your model for what a dad is.
Yeah.
And then, like, for me, as I grew up, there was things that I disagreed with my dad on, and then now I'm like, oh man, he was right, and I want to take that with me. And then there's other things where I'm like, I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna raise my kids that way. And I think that feelings is kind of a big part of that for me. Is that like being vulnerable and expressing your feelings? Is that something that you developed later on in life?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember when I moved to LA and was out there, my parents were going through a divorce. And so I didn't really like talking to them too much, and they weren't there for me as much as I would have liked them to be. I was 17 when I moved to LA. So I kind of went out and learned everything the hard way, for sure. Yeah. Like, especially with relationships and people who you think you trust and people you choose to open up to, which you probably shouldn't have. So it definitely gave me a cold heart, for sure. The way I used to learn how to connect was very not a good way of connecting. I used to connect only physically, and that was it numbed me. It did 100%, because then you get the people that you connect with, and in turn they break your heart or they move on. In LA, like, people are really out there for themselves, and you just develop a coldness, and that was not good. That was not good. But now it took a lot of reading and a lot of, me and Miranda did counseling as well. And once I realized how great counseling was. And I was like, I want to go by myself, and learned a lot about myself as well that I didn't let out when it came to family and internal pain that I was struggling with, things. And so, yeah, it was easy to see that I was always seeking a mentor, because I went through a phase where I only dated I liked only dating older women. And you can see that because I just needed guidance. I felt like they were wiser and they helped guide me and stuff, which is interesting.
I mean, I would say you probably stayed in that phase.
I did, yeah. Well, what's crazy is, like, Miranda's still 7 years older than me, but, like, I mean, I was dating women older than that.
Yeah.
And I do like how me and Miranda are able to connect, even though she's 7 years older than me, on an emotional level, for sure. I knew that at first, I could have let that be intimidating, but I realized that the only thing that was intimidating was because I just knew I had a lot to do to catch up to where she was at. And it's only just pushed me to, like, learn and kind of get to her level, for sure, when it comes to, like, education.
Right.
Because you can definitely tell that I've learned a lot more as far as, like, being out in the streets kind of deal, and from life experience. And combining that together, I think has been good for both of us.
Yeah, I can't even imagine moving to LA at 17.
Yeah,
you're either gonna grow up super fast. I mean, you're gonna grow up super fast one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't have survived if I had done that.
We just see, like, a lot of people. What pushed me is I was trying so hard not to just go back to the drama that was going on back at home.
Right.
And I knew I was like, I don't care how I have to do it, but I'm going to stay out here and do something. But I knew that if I ever wanted to get in a real relationship, I couldn't stay there. I knew that if I ever wanted to marry, have kids, I had to do it, and I had to move away from LA.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what happened with us too.
Yeah. And now with the boys, it's a good feeling because I love this community. I love this neighborhood. It allows you to slow down.
Totally.
And just kind of be very present, which is really very, very important, especially for, the boys, for sure.
So, was there anything, you left home pretty early, and then obviously from that point on, you were kind of figuring out a lot of stuff on your own. But if you look back now, was there stuff from your upbringing that you've taken with you into fatherhood?
Yeah, one of the things that my dad used to do and that I appreciated a lot was when I would ask him for guidance, he would never tell me what to do. He would always tell me both sides of, he's like, well, if you go this route, this is what you'd experience. If you choose to not go this route and go this route, this is some of the things you'll experience. So it always left me with me figuring it out, me choosing a path.
Right.
And him trusting that I would make, at the end of the day, like, whatever, you can't go wrong with whatever path you go because you either learn from it. You just learn. You learn from the path you choose. Right. And then as an individual, you can decide, I don't like this path. I'm going to now shift courses and go back to this way. And then, life is full of choices.
Totally.
Life is full of choices for sure. And I always tell my dad every time I see him or when we have deep conversations, I really liked how you would never tell me what to do. You just give me options. But I did. And also one thing that I do remember from my upbringing, there's a lot of things that I forget, but I tell him how you and mom raised me. I just remember there was a lot of love for me and my brother. And thank you guys for showing me that. Like, that's what I remember from my childhood. Yeah. Like, love. And that's why I try to pass it on and being so loving to both Banner and Knox, physically, emotionally, just giving them snuggles, kisses, and just, it's cute. It's adorable, Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the best thing. I mean, if your child is loved and they feel loved,
oh man,
everything else will kind of work itself out.
And it's so cool because Knox is a big snuggler. Like he'll say, "Papa snuggle mono," or "Abrazo, I miss you," and he'll just like, it's just the greatest feeling for sure. They, having boys is definitely, or kids in general, has made me so, when it comes to them, super emotional when I think about them and wanting to protect them. It's like such a strong love, but you feel so vulnerable at the same time because you're just like, I want nothing bad to happen to these boys. And so using that as motivation to continue to just teach them the best that I can. So when it comes time to when they're young adults, I know I've done my best.
Right.
I want to look back and know I did my best, because eventually that circle of life. Go and live life. Go make mistakes.
Yeah.
You have a lot of tools, and teaching them from my mistakes and my experiences for sure, which have many.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So right now, I mean, and it's like I especially, but I think both of us still kind of right on this is just the beginning,
Yeah.
and there's a lot to come, a lot of challenges, but so far, what would you say has been kind of, aside from the time, but just the most challenging part?
The most challenging thing, I do have a hard time with crying in
Like
general.
when they're crying?
Yeah, I do have a hard time.
Yeah.
If it's like Banner, it's one thing, but with Knox, now that he can talk, I get a little frustrated because I'm very like, all right, what's wrong? All right, this is how we're going to fix it. With him, the patience that you have to have with figuring out what it is that's wrong with him, because he throws the tantrums, and you don't fight fire with fire. And when
As much as you want to.
And when there's days that you're frustrated, or say like something's wrong, there's tension between me and Miranda, or there's tension with stuff with street parking, and then that happens, you're just like, okay, I would say that's the hardest part. Is
Yeah.
Knox has definitely taught me so much patience. Because there's things that I've had to change too. I'm like, no crying. I've said that, but it's like, well, that's not what he needs to be okay with crying, and being patient and paying attention to his tone is the crying calming down. Okay, great. Using that moment to be like, I'm here. What do you need? Papa's here.
Right.
And just having that patience. So yeah, it's taught me a lot. Understanding, empathy. Yeah. Negotiation.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, once I have to negotiate with
Oh
my
my
daughter.
goodness. Oh
You know what I
man.
mean?
And because the last thing you want to do is also get to a point where you cave in. There's been times where I'm like, of course, like you negotiate and give them like a little snack or a cookie or
Right.
things like that. But that's not what you want to do. You don't want to teach them like, don't do this. I'm going to give you a cookie if you go. No, because now he's going to be craving a cookie every time. And what happens when I don't have cookies?
Yeah.
Like that's why it's so important to learn how to negotiate without items or food or things like that we're so used to doing, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost, there's definitely places where that works and it's a good use of negotiation.
Yeah.
And then it could also be a big crutch, and almost an easy way out at times. So I think what a lot of people maybe don't realize, I get to see firsthand, is that street parking is a service that we offer over the internet. And the internet is always on, which means the street parking is always on. So we get the value of being able to spend, I think, more time with our kids on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, it never shuts off. Work is always there, 7 days a week. There's always maybe some little thing that has to happen or get done or just get your attention. So how do you kind of switch things off or compartmentalize it? So where if you're with the kids, it's 100% present with them versus when it's time to work.
Yeah, and they can feel it too. Knox is at a stage, it happened a couple weeks ago where, things were unfolding in the community, and I thought I could just sit him down and turn on a movie and have him watch it, and he noticed how distracted I was, and I felt so bad because he kept looking at me, and he's at a point where he'll tell me, Papa, put your phone down.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Or he'll just say, Papa, snuggle mono. Or he'll like want to get my attention by telling me to change the movie or something. Or he'll say, okay, I'm down, Papa, let's go fly a drone. Yeah. And that breaks my heart for sure. So now I know, obviously that was a very specific moment that as a parent, you're going to have a lot of those where you just feel like you failed, but don't hold on to those. You just learn from that. And then every day's a reset. and be very present. So now, we have a routine. I involve them in my routine every morning to make coffee with me, or make coffee for mama, or okay, let's make your pancakes, and we just hang out. It's really really cool, and we have a nice little routine, little schedule, and and then when it comes to like, especially, so we try to put him on a routine to also get sleep and have them down by 7 o'clock. Knox is out. He's asleep by like 7 o'clock, 7:30 at the latest. And now
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was asleep by that time, and now he's doing great. But he wakes up early. He wakes up around 5:30. But it's great, and because I know how important sleep is for kids at this age, like especially after reading that sleep book and going through that, diving into that, it's so important for them to get sleep. So establishing a routine has been really helpful to keep me on that. As you guys know, like, now we're going to work out, and then afterwards my mom brings Knox, and then we spend like the last hour and a half with me, Miranda, and the boys. And then once the boys are both down, then it's time to spend quality time with Miranda. And how's your day? Talk to me, like, how you feeling? So yeah, it is. People don't process that emotions are a big part of the day-to-day. Like, they think work is only physical or like computer stuff, but no, the emotional work you also have to put. I would say that right there is by far the most exhausting, and how valuable it is to emotionally be present with somebody. Because if you can emotionally be present with somebody, you don't have to be there for like an hour. If you're emotionally present with somebody for, even if it's like 5, 10, 15 minutes, and you're truly there, it feels fulfilling, and that person feels satisfied. You feel satisfied knowing that you truly connected. Yeah. So I think that's what a lot of people are missing. I was, and I still, but it's something you constantly have to work on every single day to be emotionally present, which is also extremely exhausting.
Totally.
But people don't factor that in. People think that a lot of people are so stuck in this whole, work is a physical labor kind of deal. But no, now that, that's why therapists, charge so much money to listen.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things to do is just listen.
Yeah.
Oh, it's exhausting, but once you can get there, you give that to your family. That's a good gift. Time is one of the greatest gifts you can give someone.
100%. Yeah. And I feel like they know, like even Callie, who's 8 months old now, like she knows if I'm somewhat distracted on something else, and then I can see that. And I feel like one of the things that Carolina and I used to talk about was we can't wait for her to show us who she is. We want to tell her and ask her, like, hey, show me who you are. Like, and then it's become very clear that she's showing me who I am. It's like they're like this little mirror.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. And you learn so much by just watching them. That's one of the things that I read in Call the Wild and Free. It was like a homeschool book. Just let your kids take the reins and watch them. But in order to learn, you also have to be very physically present, emotionally, physically. That's why, like, if you have a distraction like your phone, that could take away from like things, little subtle hints that you can learn from your child and see like, oh, he's very observant. He loves to grab, that's like a learning opportunity. Every little thing that they do is a learning opportunity. If you catch it, you can go and, teach them something, like Knox, he may not gravitate to like the traditional counting of numbers, but, there's a book that he does, or if we're outside grabbing the rocks or he's something, look, okay, Knox, here's one rock, here's two rocks, and he'll interact. Those kinds of things have been an eye-opening experience for sure. I love hanging out with the boy. Like Knox now is at a stage where he's starting to become your little buddy.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Salvi or whoever can, attest to that, because he'll like tell him to go on scooter rides. And now you're going on scooter rides with Knox. You're like, what the heck?
That's so awesome.
Oh, it's so cool. So those are all things just by watching, sitting back, watching, letting your kids take the wheel, you'll learn a lot.
I feel like we have maybe this ideal of who we want to be as fathers. And it's become very clear to me that in order to get closer, to stay on this path, approaching that ideal, you need help. you know, whether it's from your partner, from a team, from childcare providers, whatever, but like you need help. So I'm curious, you know, what kind of things that Miranda and obviously Lucy are doing to help support you in being the father that you want to be.
Oh, I love the little trio that we have because Miranda's so gifted. She's so smart and creative, and just has a fun personality with Knox. It's so hilarious watching them. Like, they'll take little baths together. They're just laughing. She brings such a laughter to him that is so beautiful to watch. You know, in the schoolroom, and she just loves it, and it's cool seeing that. That to me gives me so much peace because it's not easy for me to turn that side on. Like, knowing who I am, I'm a little bit more kind of like, I joke, but depending on things that I enjoy doing, like if it's like, okay, we're gonna go work out or go in the garage. Okay, this is a little bit more of my element. Or if we have a soccer ball or a basketball, I can kind of be goofy with him there. Or Miranda's goofy with him in her environment. My mom does an amazing job with teaching him what she loves, so she involves him in baking stuff, like baking the cakes for the office, the crew, and he looks forward to it and takes him shopping and has him be involved, and she involves him in so much stuff. So that's really cool. She only talks to him in Spanish, so Knox will only talk to my mom in Spanish, but he also knows how to switch immediately and talk to Miranda in English. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. Awesome. So each one of us brings a different element to him, and I love seeing it. One of the things too is not comparing, Knox to any other baby or any other child. I think it can be easy to compare your kids to other children, but realizing that each one develops a little bit differently and figuring out how it is that they love to learn. And they might take a little bit longer to learn this. For example, but I don't know what to compare it to either. I just know, for example, like Brian, Emery does certain things. I'm like, oh man, or she was like a better sleeper, or she does these little things. You're like, what the heck? But then Knox is not Emery, and Knox is not Brian's child, So always kind of pulling back and focusing back on what your child is good at is really cool. By giving him who you are, Miranda giving him who she is, my mom giving him who she is, it's really cool. And I love when Miranda's parents come into town. They have a patience with him, and it's really cool to see. Even what he learns from the crew when he goes into the office. Yeah. The Rachels, the Nicoles, the Salvies, the Caitlins want to teach him, and he'll love it.
Yeah. I think that's super cool that he's growing up in an environment where there's a lot of people around that really like to interact with him and just let him be him too.
Yeah.
Also, while you were talking, I was thinking about how I think, not comparing your kid to other kids, but also not comparing yourself to other parents.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you realize it, like, even there's moments where if my job was to be a full-time dad, then I would be an amazing full-time dad. Like, I know I'd be able to focus on that and focus on no other stressors but to do that. But that's not the reality. Same thing I tell Miranda, like, I know that there's moments where you feel like you could do so much more, and we probably could, but that's not your job. You're not a full-time mom. Like, we have a lot of responsibilities, so let's be kinder to ourselves, because if not, then you just end up stressing yourself out because, there's always so much more time you can focus on them. But then, again, like, that's why when someone says, or a mom says I'm a full-time mom, or even the dad says I'm a full-time dad, oh, man, that's exhausting. Oh, man.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, I know you can love your kid all you want, but it's okay to be like, I'm annoyed of you. I am annoyed of you.
Yeah.
Because there's windows where I only spend time with Knox for like 2 hours. I'm like, enough. I
need a break.
Oh my goodness, you don't stop. So, yeah.
So what do you have? Do you have plans for Father's Day? What would be your ideal Father's Day?
Ideal Father's Day, just spending some time, one, being able to sleep in. And then, just snuggling in with relaxed boys, spend time with fam, having a moment to just kind of like, even for myself, just sit in the garage with the garage door open, just hanging out there, listening, like maybe 2 hours of not being interrupted.
Nice.
That'd be like a really nice Father's Day. Really nice.
Yeah.
Or I might even actually try to go up and see my dad, actually. Go spend Father's Day with him.
Mm-hmm.
Just overnight. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So, what was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, it's impossible not to watch, I think, especially in these early years, your kids, they're looking up to you. They're watching what you do all the time. Sometimes maybe they repeat it. Who do you look up to?
Honestly?
No
one.
Nobody.
No.
Okay.
I know that's weird to say, but not really. I've thought about this long and hard, but
Cool. Tell me more.
I think that's honestly why because of that though, and I've identified that, it also pushes just me to become the person that I want my kids to look up to. So it pushes me to become an example. So if I don't look up to anybody, it just forces me to just maybe look. The Matthew McConaughey, he said that in one of his speeches.
Yeah.
He's like, who I am in 5 or 10 years is who I look up to. I can relate to that. Like I want to look up to myself 5, 10 years from now and how much I've developed and grown by continuing to reevaluate who I am and identifying my weaknesses and, just continuing to be as humble as possible but also being confident in who I am. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Father's Day it's like a day, obviously, where we celebrate dads. I think in the general understanding of Father's Day, it's different than Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It's a much different sort of thing. But I think it's also a time to kind of reflect on who we are as fathers and where we want to go with it. So if you had some little nugget of knowledge, some little bit of wisdom, experience that you would want to share with other dads or people that were thinking about becoming dads or people that are, going to go hang out with their dads, as far as what it means to be a father or, just that whole, the meaning of the role of father, what would you want to have people know?
One of the things I would just say, in order to be the best version of yourself to your kids, you always have to continuously keep questioning yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Keep questioning yourself, and then if you question yourself and you get an answer back, what do you do with that answer?
So for example, one perfect thing was I knew that I was really bad at communication. I would just want to fix something. I wouldn't and not be like, okay, what's wrong? Cool, sounds good. Let's fix it. But that's not how it works for everybody. Like just because that's who I am doesn't mean that sometimes people just need to be listened to.
Yeah.
To learn. And just can allow them to vent and learn from that and just being there. So that communication was key. Learning how to communicate properly was very important. Just always fighting to be, never stop growing. It's already so hard for me to focus because I want to go help her out so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I lose my train of thought.
No, I think that's great. Never stop growing, never stop learning.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting statement that you say, like, well, I don't really look up to anybody, but at the same time, you hold yourself accountable to continue to not just grow and learn, but the stuff that you learn to question it, question your own thoughts, and maybe not necessarily impose your own will on a situation or on a person, kind of like how you were saying that your dad did with you.
Yeah.
Presenting some different sides and then letting you arrive at a conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, we all look at life through our own point of view, so the best thing you can do is educate yourself as best as possible and then make a choice. And you don't know if that choice is the right choice or not.
Yeah.
You just got to go for it. And then based off of your knowledge, you realize, oh, I did make the right choice or I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But that comes through education as a human,
For sure.
as best as possible. It's one thing to be physically healthy and strong, but one of the things I tell Miranda all the time is I needed to work on myself emotionally. I need to work on my emotional health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all super important. Fitness pretty much goes through every different layer of our, who we are. So, well, that's great, man. I think we should probably just call it there.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
It's cool to have you on here, dude. Happy Father's Day.
Same to you, man.
Cool, man.